I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay there before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry, close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who's up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride, and thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and then spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastenings. But maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And I wish that I could tell myself that nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. Wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. Trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. Even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening.
Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Last stand, and I came to deliver. Been called a Clinton operative, a Russian, and a grifter. By libs, a Washington student debt, proud to be an intern, sucking up to pigs who get a tax cut in the midterms. You cut the ties but never heal the wrist burns. Capitalist shackles wrap and penetrate like ringworms around the necks of those whose deaths will not affect the king's purse or the coffers of the company the king serves, who manufacture mandated tinctures. Their safety data hanging from a fixture, half a mile skyward, just dangling from the rafters. My grift is sobbing till I'm cackling with laughter. I guess I would have made a decent actor. I'd be great at crying on command until they cut plus 40 minutes after. When the director waves a hand, it ain't a rap, it's now a legal matter. Honey, my grift is weeping on a mic until I'm hacking up airstrike verses like it's bombs away and batter up. Swinging on these bigots, they keep killing us to fatten up. Kill the switch, eat the rich, I think they're finally fat enough. Grab your knife and fork, the world is yours, just say you've had enough. And if you're comfy, you could go ahead and laugh it up. Tell me how the most important vote I'll ever cast is like the choosing of a bus, in that it might not take you anywhere you want, but no one can deny the fact the bus is now no longer where it was. And that's the kind of progress we should celebrate and trust. Spoken like a kid who never took a bus. Spoken like a piece of shit that used some cash to mask his stink and truly thinks he's one of us. Spoken like a terminally unserious person who equates our cries for rights to mixed up orders from a server. It paints a privileged picture of what you would label urgent if the worst thing you've experienced in life has been the time your waiter accidentally brought a tray of gold flake scallop when you clearly ordered gold flake urchin. And now you're storming out the restaurant and hopping in a Tesla. You got 80 pounds of Tony Fauci merching.
Rewind 2 chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind 2 chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
Best to place your bets on weaponizing the identity of every limp progressive claiming grassroots integrity. Policy is a slippery slope for all of its complexity, so flex your brave resistance with this Ilhan Omar NFT. Numbered 1 of 723.
Each depicts her valiantly championing a bill before she lays it at a donor's feet. And she can throw her hands up in the air with AOC and say if only Nina Turner could have voted present too, that's why we need another seat. We need some more progressives we elect to only tweet, who live to serve humana and their label of elective slapped on every patient's gravest needs. And every station plays the theme that medical professionals agree on the effectiveness and safety of injections authorized for this emergency. And in purely unrelated news, the profits of the ones who manufacture vaccines just increased by nearly 36 billion with a fucking B. Sometimes it feels like we're the only ones that see. Sometimes it feels like all of us are lost at sea. And every time we think we see an island on the tip of the horizon, it turns out to be another measure making sure we're kept within the watchful eye of murderous authority. And so I guess my grift is crying for the future they denied us, where the people who would buy us are a mockable minority. And we are more than genomes under warranty. And we are more than serfs in constant quarantine. If I had a single breath left, I'd let the chorus scream. I'd announce our leaders claiming none for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me.
Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
For you. I'm not sorry that my policies don't work for you, and that sucks about your cough, but there's work to do. Gotta reopen the shop, gotta just push through. 2 jars of bleach, pick one you lose. 2 jars of bleach, which one do you choose? When neither gives a shit about you or shares your views or cares if you can't pay for food. Get a firm grip on the straps of your boots. Get a good look at the last of the fruit. Get your good book cause you can't buy booze. Honey, take heart cause the dead don't bruise. A bit about me, I don't believe in God, right? That said, I'll be praying on debate night. Joe can't speak right. You could call me petty, but I really wanna see him bring a knife to a dogfight, or each mutt stuffed a blunderbuss up into his canines, and they can pull right up alongside Joe in broad goddamn daylight and maul his broadside, cause Joe's gonna fold up the sails and stick the cannons all at the wrong side. And I'm not saying he and only he solely represent the wrong side. I'm saying both parties work to keep us hogtied. And we have been immobilized and fed upon steadily for such a long time that we're too weak to see that it could ever have been otherwise. Don't focus on our nominees' laundry list of rape accusals, focus on the other guys. Focus on the other side. Focus on the Tiger King. Look, there's a firefly. Now what were you saying, Tara Reade? Yeah, she's an actress, right? She was in a film called A Pattern of Unwanted Hugs and Touches from a Man That You Trusted, right? And in the end, when she finds out her boss was just another piece of shit, she felt betrayed and then disgusted, right? And he goes on to live his life, run for office, keep his wife, and nobody discussed it, right? Yeah, I've seen the film 100 fucking times. I've seen the film 100 times. There's 2 jars of bleach on a table. Pick either one and you lose. 2 jars of bleach on the table. Exercise your right to choose. I don't believe in God, right?
Indy left. What is happening here?
To check out IndependentLeft.news.
The Indie News Network.
Indie Left News.
Oh, hey, Indie Left.
IndependentLeft.news. Great work.
Indie Left News.
IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News. Shout out.
Oh, what's up, Independent Left? Indie
Friend
Left.
show.
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
The INN, Indie, you're wonderful.
I think Indie was onto something.
Independent News Network, Indie News.
Yeah. What's up, Indie, over on Rockfin?
Independent News Network, also known as INN.
Indie Left News.
I don't know if I would have made it through that 3 weeks without Indie, honestly.
No, I was just going to ask Indie.
A huge thank you and shout out to Indie Left.
No, you know what we're doing? We're world building, Indie.
Indie Left News.
You were doing the INN recruiting.
Indie News.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News.
Check out Independent Left News.
At Kennedy News.
I see Indies in the chat. Hi, Indy! Okay, great.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Hi, everybody. We're back. It's how do we miss that again? Because every Sunday we seem to be missing a lot because they're just bombarding us with a bunch of shit. And I'm Indy, as it says here on the screen. If you're listening on the podcast, that's me. I got Reef sitting next to me in Florida, but I'm in New Jersey. So for everyone that doesn't know, we've never actually met in person and have been doing this for years. But at some point that will happen. But I say he's sitting next to me because that's what it looks like on screen. But just a little inside baseball for everyone there. We're on Indie News Network. That's INN. That's a network that we founded together with a bunch of other amazing content creators. Go to indienews.network, INDIE, or you can go to INN.network as well. I believe that'll take you to the right place. And you'll be able to find us on all the platforms where we're streaming live right now. And we are streaming, YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Facebook, but yes, we're streaming out to Facebook. 3 different Twitter accounts, 2 different YouTubes. Kick, hi Kick. We're out there on Kick. Transgemini, and guessing Dr. Nick will be out there at some point. And others, yes.
What do you even do on Kick? Do you follow on Kick? Do you subscribe on Kick? What do you do?
I believe you follow. I believe
whatever
one follows on the Kick, but
whatever
they kick
you do,
on Kick.
You better do it, or I will kick you. I'm going to come over there and kick you. I'm going to put this foot upside your head.
I'm being told follow is the answer. So follow kick.com/Indie News Network, INDIE News Network. All right. So, and we got, I don't know, a dozen followers already. We're on our way to 1 million, folks, as Kit says, and we're going to race Hardlands to 1 million because they just got started there too, and they're already up to 120. So we're already behind them. Come on, guys, let's go. All right. It's been a heck of a week as usual. We celebrated nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we had a federal holiday, which means that some people got a day off, but that a lot of people were patriotic and a lot of people blew their fingers off. And I'm sorry if that happened to you, but it didn't happen to me. So we did some sparklers, and it was pretty tame with the children, although it was not, they were not tame, but the sparklers were. So,
they use chairs for lions, well, you can try that. Keep the chair in between you and the kid.
They used to tame lions that way. I don't believe they do anymore. I think that practice has gone out at this point.
Hey man, tell that to Siegfried and Roy. Who I don't even remember that. Is that it? I think that's it.
I think one of them died, or both of them at this point may have died. But I'm sorry if one of them is alive, and I said he just died.
They didn't have their chair, bro. That was clearly
Tiger went Tiger.
Clearly the problem.
As Chris Rock once famously said. So I had a real hard time finding and picking stories for tonight, man. It was a grind and a struggle. I even had to consult one of our good friends, Oz the Boomer, as you all know. I said, what do you think is the thing that's pressing the most this week? And as he says every day and every week for 9 months, it's what's going on in Gaza, and not enough people are talking about it. So of course we're gonna talk a little bit about that. We're also going to, because we all love Oz, but because of July 4th happening, the Last American Vagabond wrote an article that I thought was kind of interesting. I know he did a voice read of it too for his website, and that's a whole other thing I want to talk about is his website and what's happening to his website. So we're going to get into that. We have not talked about labor and workers, with the exception of, Amazon and the Teamsters and that whole thing. But what else is happening out there in the world of labor and with workers? And it's not very great. There was one kind of positive story, but it's a little rough. And then the story I wanted to start with tonight is about Leonard Peltier and what's going on with Leonard. And he had another parole hearing, and it was denied. We're going to talk about that. Before we do, I really, of course, appreciate everyone.
That's the guy with allegedly great aim, if I remember correctly.
Well, we're gonna get into everything that's claimed and everything that we know. So, if you are able to and you want to hook us up with a couple of bucks, we really appreciate it. Everyone has been so generous lately, and we really, it helps a lot, and it's a full-time gig to keep this thing going, basically, and we're not getting paid full-time money, and that's fine. We're okay with, it's too important to what we're doing and to countering the
to leave your briefcases full of money.
Yes,
at 330.3.30.
If you are unable to, of course, please save your money and share the stream and tell everyone that they should be watching this too. I'll do that anyway, but if you are able to and you have a couple of bucks you can spare, co-fi.com/Indie News Network and all the ones that I just put up there. So let's get into this whole Leonard Peltier thing, because it's really funny. When I was in 7th grade, and that was a lot of years ago, I'm not going to say exactly how many, but if some people know, I had a relatively activist, liberal, lefty teacher that taught me about what happened to Leonard Peltier. And it's something that I've kept my eye on my whole adulthood. And he's been in prison my entire adulthood. What do you know? Before I get into that, I don't know. How much do you know about his story?
I know.
Perfect Aim.
I know some. That's just me and my opinion. But, if people who don't have warrants step onto your property, I thought this was America. But what do I know? It's there's some alleged stuff with his son and him, and what the FBI claim and what people who were put on the stand to lie claim. But allegedly he murdered federal agents, right? That's the alleged claim, right?
Effectively.
Yeah.
All right. So,
who were on his land with no like warrant.
Well, yes.
So,
again, but let's start at the beginning, or let's start at the current day. That on June 10th, Leonard Peltier appeared before. Do I have to turn around now?
No, just stay where you are. Don't move.
On June 10th, Leonard Peltier
Don't reach for
appeared
anything
before the U.S. Parole Commission to state his case for freedom for the fourth time. His three previous parole attempts in 1993, 96, and 2009 were all denied. He hasn't even had a parole hearing in 15 years. On July 2nd, the U.S. Parole Commission denied Leonard Peltier's parole for the fourth time. At 79 years old and battling multiple serious health conditions without proper medical treatment, Leonard Peltier most likely won't make it another 15 years for his next parole hearing, scheduled in June of 2039. Thanks, guys. But that does not mean that the fight for justice is over.
How old will he be then? He's 79
so
now. We'll just round that to 80. So
he'll be 94, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got a 94-year-old man's much too dangerous, clearly, to be walking free.
Now, the NDN Collective.
Okay.
So Leonard actually did get recorded on a phone call, and then I wanted to play his words, most importantly. And let's hear from the man himself.
This call is from a federal prison.
Well, today was a pretty depressing day for me. It was literally a death sentence. There's very little chance of me surviving 15 years till I'm 95 years old before I can put in parole again. I don't intend to give up, and I'm hoping that none of you give up. Of course, I'm very grateful for all my supporters. It's been around the world, and so far there's been a lot of effort from around the world, people trying to get me out, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm going to need your help, people. I'm going to need all of your help, and I'm hoping that you...
This call is from a federal prison.
Gotta go, time's run out for me, so I gotta say, Doksha.
We'll keep fighting for you, Leonard. And then I'm heading into Sundance tomorrow, so we're gonna pray for you.
We get a minute.
So, speaking of people fighting, every year on Thanksgiving, a ton of tribal leaders and activists have been getting around Plymouth Rock, right? And Peltier has frequently come up in their discussions every year, so keep an eye out for that. But we've certainly covered their talks on that before. For me, Peltier is not. I am not as well versed in it as Assange. Clearly, you know, I think it's important. But
I brought a couple of articles so we can really get into the depth of the case, at least from the perspective. I think WSWS does a pretty good job talking about this, and they actually brought a pretty good one. But
yeah,
let's just NDN Collective. This is who he called. So this is his
Mantis
people,
in
his
the
supporters.
Chat recommended a book called Spirit of Crazy Horse about it, which I might look into. So
sure.
But anyway, continue.
Okay, so on June 27th in Luzahan, which is in Rapid City, South Dakota, days before we found out Leonard's parole decision, Indigenous people, youth, longtime advocates, and relatives from across Turtle Island participated in the Caravan and Freedom Rally to continue the nearly 5-decade fight for justice for Leonard Peltier. It was a day that was supposed to reach 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but it started with a cool, gentle rain and prayer at Wombly Ska. I'm not even going to try to butcher that. The caravan was led with powerful songs and steady beats from the Iron Bull drum group, who sat in a flatbed towed by a white pickup. To encourage our people, our relatives, and our community to join the caravan and demand the freedom of Leonard Peltier, we passed through the Lakota homes twice and the Alphabet, north side of Ni Luzahan, before ending at the Andrew E. Bogue Federal Building in U.S. Courthouse. with 45 vehicles making up the final total of the caravan. The people parked in front of the courthouse and the rally began. Look at the size of that banner, that sign. God, how many car lengths does that stretch? All the people holding that? That's amazing.
I mean, each person is probably 6 foot. Car is probably what? I don't know.
Oh, that's a pretty big banner.
10 feet.
So that's outside
long,
the courthouse
so
in Rapid City. All right.
50 feet, probably.
Right. When people think of the Indian Wars, right, they most likely think of the clashes between the Lakota and the U.S. cavalry, or the old westerns of cowboys and Indians in the Southwest from the 1800s.
French and Indian War is what I think of, but that's because
you're from
old history.
Yeah, you got family down there.
Yeah, the fucking 14th century.
But in 2024, the United States still takes land from indigenous peoples, kills and incarcerates indigenous men, women, and non-binary relatives, and destroys our idea of a beautiful future: clean air, clean water, a restored and thriving ecosystem, happy children, and healthy relationships healthy relationships in our communities. These Indian wars were not
Shout out
wars.
to the water protectors.
No. Shout out
Still
to the water
out there,
protectors. Yes.
Fighting for stuff.
These Indian wars, quote unquote, were not wars. They were acts of state violence carried out against indigenous peoples, resisting the continued violation of treaty rights and advocating for the protection of their communities, cultural lifeways, and the land. Man, this sounds awfully familiar, almost like it's a template for somewhere else that's happening in the world.
Yep.
At every instance of brutal settler violence on our people, whether it was physical or structural, we had ancestors and elders who resisted it to defend our ways of life. Leonard Peltier, the American Indian movement, the Red Power movement, and the women in those movements are now those elders and ancestors. It wasn't until 1978, 2 years after the incarceration of Leonard Peltier, that the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, or ARFA, was passed in the U.S., which legalized our prayers, ceremonies, and ceremonial objects and access to our sacred sites. This was something that our elders and ancestors, including Leonard, fought for. Prior to the passing of this act, ceremonies, dances, and guidance from medicine people were punishable by up to 30 days in jail and or other forms of punishment because of the 1833 Court of Indian Offenses. I mean, they don't stop. It doesn't stop. And still it doesn't stop. So as this continues, the history of wrongful imprisonment and death of indigenous people in the United States is as American as it gets. Rachel Dion Thunder, a member of the American Indian Movement and Indigenous Protectors Movement, AIM is the American Indian Movement, stated at the rally, which encapsulates what the imprisonment of Leonard Peltier means to us. Quote, as long as they hold Leonard Peltier, they hold a piece of every single one of us. I can understand why. Okay? So there's a 97% incarceration rate in the downtown Rapid City, Pennington County Jail. We know that ever since they took Leonard, they've been trying to take all of us. Damn. Leonard Peltier has been a political prisoner, and we know that the United States incarcerated Crazy Horse. They incarcerated Sitting Bull. They were both killed. Leonard Peltier has been sitting in jail for 49 years because they want the same outcome. And that's Andrew Cat Ironshell, who is the NDN Collective Action organizer during that caravan, said that.
Well, keep in mind what they're also mentioning here is the missing and murdered indigenous women and men who are just missing. Yeah, that's who they're coming after as well. So
you know what? Let me see if I can.
A lot of fuckery going on.
That's weird. What's happening to Leonard Peltier
around FBI stories
is happening to all of us. The era of suppression that Leonard Peltier belongs to was the beginning of COINTELPRO used by the FBI to dismantle the American Indian Movement, Black Power movement, and civil rights movements. Today, we're dealing with the compounding effects of that suppression and retaliation from the U.S. In South Dakota, the same state where Leonard Peltier was wanted for his involvement in the Oglala shootout. God, I can't speak tonight. There have been 70.
You want me to help? Hold on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Oglala.
Thank you.
Oglala.
There have been 79 police-involved shootings statewide, where 75% of the fatalities were, go figure, indigenous people from 2021 to 23. Yeah. From 2001 to 23. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're talking about a 21-year stretch or 22-year stretch. 79 people involved, police-involved shootings statewide, 3/4 of them involving fatalities of indigenous people. To this day, there have been 0 convictions of those police officers, and that is not a surprise. All right. The same targeting of police interactions extends to indigenous children in South Dakota as well. Not a surprise either, unfortunately. Just last year, South Dakota tried passing State Senate Bill SB 4, which targeted children and in turn gave student resource officers more power over indigenous students within schools. Why?
What does this sound like in urban environments? Right? This is socioeconomic status. This is systemic racism crap. Right? You know, keeping you oppressed, and therefore you don't have the money, resources to do anything on the up and up. Therefore, you know, you do what you can, and therefore law will probably be looking at you much more often. Yes. You know, as well as their racist scumbags in and of themselves. But, you know,
seen the film 100 fucking
also
times.
Systemic problems.
As we heard Jesse say in Look Fat, seen this film 100 times. Here in Rapid City, quote, when a student didn't meet dress code, an SRO picked them up and slammed them on their head. We need charge because our children are being intimidated and criminalized in a space where safety should be a right. Our Wakanyja are being treated like criminals. Our children are being treated like criminals. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is a direct link to the school-to-prison pipeline. That also sounds very familiar. 70% of juvenile detainees are indigenous children, said Anissa Martin, and she's also from the Indian Action Network. The practice of violent policing and state repression has always extended to our movement spaces. During the No Dakota Access Pipeline movement in 2016, the targeting of indigenous land defenders and water protectors, as Reef mentioned earlier, was swift from U.S. law enforcement, as well as from private law enforcement hired by the oil company that was running DAPL. After hundreds of arrests and injuries at Standing Rock, the immediate passing of anti-protest laws was another measure by the U.S. to suppress indigenous self-determination and freedom. Currently, there are 13 states, including South Dakota, that have enacted anti-protest laws, all of which carry at least a year in prison and or a $2,000 fine. And I believe you live in a state that did it too.
Fucking wild. Oh, yep. Oh, no, I know. Especially with Cop City being right near my neck of the woods. You know?
Oh, I wasn't talking about Atlanta.
Was a Tallahassee kid.
I wasn't talking about...
but Tortuguita was Tallahassee. So he worked at the Food Not Bombs place in 40 minutes from me.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So what's
also
next?
Shout out Food Not Bombs.
Oh, hell you know? Keith McHenry. If you're not following Keith _McHenry and Food Not Bombs Houston, I know is doing amazing work, and they're all over the country. What a phenomenal organization. And they will
ticketed. Do it whether it's illegal or not, and
they
good
get
for
ticketed.
them. Yeah.
And I mean, regularly,
fucking wild.
It's disgraceful that they're treated that way for feeding the hungry.
Terminal late stage capitalism.
So, from the NDN Collective, what's next is that the news of his parole denial is in the midst of an election year where the Democratic and Republican candidates both support the genocide of our Palestinian relatives in Gaza. a Supreme Court that's passing laws to target unsheltered people and lift protections from Mother Earth, and the investment of cop cities and prisons around the country. Wow, you just touched on all those. Okay. To accommodate more incarcerations is overwhelming and depressing, but it is in these movements where we must reflect on our stories as Indigenous people and what our elders and ancestors have sacrificed for us to exist. It's through their sacrifices that we still have our prayers, our languages, our seeds, our non-human relations, and our medicines. They didn't give up on us, so we shouldn't give up on them. And even as, okay, so this is an actual, like, a minute and a half speech. Even as Leonard Peltier was told he'll remain in prison, the longest serving Indigenous political prisoner in the U.S. That's unbelievable, too. Again, I've been hearing hearing about this guy since I was in grade school. And I'm north of 40, let's just say. North of 45, let's just say.
Well, there's your problem.
Yeah. So we're talking again. I've been hearing about this for more than 40 years at least. And I'm not going to date myself exactly, but you can get an idea. Oh, actually, you know what? I did tell everyone, because I put that thing out on July 4th, my haiku. I got to find that and put that out. That was actually kind of funny. All right. So Leonard said that he's not intending to give up. He's hoping none of us do. We originate from powerful, spiritual, and resilient people. For every atrocity and injustice that settler colonialism has done to the world, Indigenous people have defended the earth, its precious resources, and their communities. We've developed and created solutions that are in line with our original teachings and values. Values. God, it sounds like... And we continue the struggle for decolonization because we know that is the only way to truly be liberated. Everybody's got values. Yep. Even now, we're still prepared for Leonard's return. I hope so. Because, look, we were preparing for Julian Assange's return when no one was expecting it, and we got that. And you never know. That's all I'm saying is you never know. But back in the homelands of the Turtle Mountain Band of the Chippewas, where Leonard is an enrolled member, a home and proper care situation is being established so that even now the buffalo that the U.S. tried to drive to extinction are making their way back in massive herds. And even now the Klamath people are getting land back while breaking down dams and restoring natural waterways. And even now, language revitalization schools are being made available for our children. Again, I want to hear what this guy had to say as a short speech.
The American Indian movement, Leonard Peltier, and that generation made it proud for us to be proud of our language, our culture. And out of that, we were able to rebuild and begin to rebuild our indigenous nations and rebuild power. And for him to come back home to his homelands and to his movement and to his people would be profound. He's America's longest living political prisoner in American history, and he's indigenous. And that's a reflection of this entire country's history. It's a reflection of how throughout history the United States government has treated indigenous people. Everyone says that this election is one of the most important elections in the history of our people in the last generation or so. Well, if the people out there want us to vote for them, they need to do and act on issues that we care about. So we will be asking for the clemency of Leonard Peltier.
As long as they hold Leonard Peltier, they hold a piece of every single one of us. And that is why we're not going to stop until they let us go home.
It would mean a huge victory and a healing for our people. We want to make sure that Leonard Peltier knows that the people of Pine Ridge, that the Oglalas stand with him, that the people of the Osheti Shakoi stand with him, that the people of this territory in the Chesapa stand with him, that he is not forgotten and that his sacrifices aren't for nothing.
I'm glad I played it.
I've always wondered, and forgive me for being naive, Indigenous people, but the whole drum circle thing, as a drummer myself, like why is there no like Neil Peart giant drum kit? Or like who is the Neil Peart of drum circling? Would love to know, because I only hear like one thing from it's great. it's a great track, bro. A classic, you know. But like, it's just the one that I'm just wondering. You know, I would like to know.
Is there a Neil paired of drumming?
Yeah, like who's doing the jazz fusion?
I don't know. Anyway,
native drumming. That's what I want to know.
The fight for Leonard and the liberation of our people from settler colonialism is not over. We will honor Leonard's words and our ancestors' actions by not giving up the fight to liberate our people. What we all can do is to advocate for his clemency by signing the petition. We continue to work to free all incarcerated relatives. Okay, we continue to protect our culture, lifeways, land, and water for future generations, just like our previous generations did for us. Somewhere, you know, this sounds like what we all should be saying. And for some reason, this somehow disappeared from our vernacular and our conversation. I appreciate that the indigenous people are still fighting for this and the land, because it is, there are a few. There's Aaron Brown. Like, you can name the people that are fighting for clean water out there. It's sad as fuck. Yeah. All right. As people have said during this long fight for Leonard, if it can happen to Leonard, it can happen to me. And again, if that happened to Julian, it can happen to us. And it's the same thing. And so let's fight for a future where we can all be free. Okay. Again, here is the World Socialist website article about it. And this really details the case of what happened and why he's in prison. All right. He was the leader of the American Indian movement, Leonard Peltier. He's serving 2 consecutive life sentences at the federal penitentiary in Leavenworth for 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Ronald Arthur Williams and Jack Ross Kohler, federal FBI agents.
Gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep.
The agents were killed during a shootout between the FBI and AIM on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota on June 26, 1975. The denial of Peltier's parole request is a continuation of the government vendetta against the 79-year-old activist for a crime he never committed. The World Socialist website denounces the Parole Commission's decision and calls on workers and youth throughout the world to demand his immediate release, which we do. The shootout at Pine Ridge was the result of U.S. government repression and law enforcement provocations against Native Americans that reached a high point in 1973 after AIM organized the occupation of the town of Wounded Knee, South Dakota. Peltier, who was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and grew up on the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation, became active in Native American social and political causes after he moved to Seattle in 1965. He joined AIM in 1972 after he learned of factional tensions at Pine Ridge. By the time he traveled to Wounded Knee in 1975 to deliver supplies to the occupiers, he had already been framed up for attempted murder of a police officer during an AIM protest outside the federal building in Milwaukee. He was later acquitted of this charge. They like to frame them up. According to government reports, the 2 FBI agents, Williams and Kohler, were killed after pursuing a red pickup or van at high speeds onto the Pine Ridge Ranch of the Jumping Bull family, where AIM members and other Indians had encamped. It turned out that the vehicle they were chasing was a white over orange Chevy Suburban with 3 Native Americans in it, including Leonard Peltier.
So what you're saying is he fit the description?
Well, not just fit the description. He was in the vehicle.
Where have we heard that before?
No, he was in the vehicle. The agents were driving separate unmarked cars and got out of their vehicles with guns drawn while the Suburban also stopped and the occupants got out. A gunfight involving handguns and AR-15 assault rifles ensued, with Native Americans from the camp joining in. That's a heavy statement. I don't know what...
47 fucking shooters.
Government documents allege that there were 47 shooters in all, including Peltier. But they're sure that it was him. The FBI maintained that after both agents sustained serious wounds, an individual who was a Native American approached and fatally shot them both at close range with a high-powered rifle. Following the shootout, Peltier and several others fled to Canada. On December 22nd, 1975, he was named to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. And on February 6th, 1976, he was arrested along with Frank Blackhorse by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at the Small Boys Reserve and Small Boy Camp Hinton in Alberta, Canada.
Alberta.
He was then transported. Yep. He was then transported to Calgary and then taken to the Ocala prison farm in Vancouver, British Columbia. In December 1976, so like almost a year later, 10 months later, he was extradited to the U.S. from Canada based on documents supplied by the FBI, which were later shown to contain false information derived from coerced testimony. Man, where have we heard this before, Julian Assange? What?
So many times.
Okay.
So many times.
He was charged with executing 2 agents and put on trial in Fargo, North Dakota, not North Carolina, Fargo, North Dakota, where the government expected a supportive jury after the FBI launched a campaign to scare Fargo residents into thinking that the aim would descend on the town during the trial and carry out a massacre. That almost sounds like Chris Matthews. That almost sounds like Chris Matthews scaring the shit out of people about them being hangings in Central Park when Bernie Sanders was about to become the nominee. It's very similar type of fearmonger language. SWAT teams were sent in to guard the jury 24 hours a day.
Jury.
Crazy. The jury conviction of Peltier on April 18, 1977 was the product of a U.S. government conspiracy. The trial included federal prosecutors hiding evidence that exonerated Peltier. The FBI threatened and coerced witnesses into lying who later recanted their testimony. The ballistics evidence that the FBI claimed linked Peltier to the crime was disrupted by experts, but this information was not disclosed during the trial. When the government's original case against Peltier fell apart after these facts came to light, it abruptly changed the charges to aiding and abetting whoever did kill the agents on the grounds that he was one of dozens of people present when the shootout occurred. And we believe that he was, but Leonard has maintained his innocence consistently over the decades. In 1999, he told CNN correspondent that I didn't kill those agents. I didn't see who killed those agents. And if I did know, I'm not telling, but I don't know, and that's the point. Peltier said he fired shots during the gun battle, but I know I didn't hit them. I know I didn't. Every legal attempt by Peltier and his attorneys to overturn his wrongful conviction has been denied by the U.S. court system. Go figure. A previous parole request in 2009 was also denied. Meanwhile, campaigns for clemency from Democrat Bill Clinton in 2001 and a commuted sentence from Barack Obama in 2016 were, of course, denied just before each of them left office. Because they're fucking assholes that serve the same machine as the Republican fucking douchebags, and we're going to talk about all that later. They're no friend to anybody, but we all know that here. At every stage, a campaign by FBI agents was mounted to demand that Peltier be kept behind bars. Ridiculous. The deep state doesn't exist, right, folks? Peltier will be eligible for another parole hearing in June 2026, according to a parole commission representative, although he said 2039. Responding to the decision on Tuesday, Peltier's attorney, Kevin Sharp, said in a statement, quote, "Today's announcement continues the injustice of this long ordeal for Leonard Peltier. This decision is a missed opportunity for the U.S. to finally recognize the misconduct of the FBI and send a message to Indian country regarding the impacts of the federal government's actions and policies of the 1970s, which have now been well documented and released. Hoover's dead. All these agents are mostly dead or long since retired, but none of these people can get any kind of restorative justice. It's beyond disgraceful." In a statement, FBI director, remember, appointed by Donald Trump because nothing changes between administrations, Christopher Wray claimed, Quote, no amount of prison time will ever change the facts surrounding the murders of Special Agents Kohler and Williams. That's right. Nothing will ever change the facts. But yet you continue to hold this guy in prison when he didn't. You can't prove that he did the shoot. Well aware that he has been systematically denied his basic rights, Ray then went on to gaslight and assert that the political prisoner has been afforded due process time and again. Whatever
the fuck you say.
Paul O'Brien, executive director of Amnesty International USA, which had representatives at Peltier's trial in 1977 and has long campaigned for his freedom, said keeping him locked up is a human rights travesty, which it is. Quote, not only are there ongoing unresolved concerns about the fairness of his trial, he spent nearly 50 years in prison, is approaching 80, and is suffering from chronic health problems. So that's a total good reason to keep him locked up and spending all kinds of money of the public to keep him imprisoned and not getting the adequate care and away from his family, right? Insane. So he also wrote a statement out that I brought with me. And this was published in workers.org. And this was published yesterday morning. And I believe it was the 1 minute statement. But this way, we can hear what he had to say. Hope is a hard thing here, but I always hold hope in you, my people. Pay attention. The parole decision on July 11th may show you what injustice truly means to this nation and whom it was meant for. He meant June 11th. Living in lockdown, time is twisted into something that has nothing to do with minutes, hours, or years. They've taken what little freedom I have outside this box. Art, gone. Ceremony, gone. Yet they will never take the spirit of a sun dancer. I've never given them my integrity. I remain undestroyed. I'm counting on you if this decision does not go my way. I always need your prayers. I need you to demand that this country finally commit one act of justice. And not force him to take some shit-ass guilty plea that fucking is a half measure just to let him out, by the way. He says, my attorney assures me that the battle is not over until it's over. She will not back down. I'm counting on you to not back down. My time is running out here with no medical care. Thanks, Leavenworth. I do not fear death returning to Mother Earth's womb, but I do not want to die in lockdown. In my solitude, my mind often returns to Raymond Yellow Thunder. The profound tragedy of Raymond's murder sparked change in our people and showed them who the American Indian movement is. Raymond was a hardworking man. When he came into town to give money to his sisters, it was not enough for the Hare brothers to humiliate Raymond, strip him, and parade him around an American Legion dance. Raymond was shoved into the trunk of a car and died the next day. The Hare brothers were charged with second-degree manslaughter and released with no bail.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Raymond's sisters were distraught that even that small charge may not stick. The authorities would not release the autopsy report. They wouldn't allow Raymond's sisters to see his body. The sisters sought help from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA, the tribal government, and private attorneys. In desperation, they turned to the American Indian movement. AIM members are spirit warriors, not merciless savages. We organized 200 carloads of people and demanded justice. With dignity, we demanded justice. Sheriff's deputies, state troopers, and FBI agents agreed that serious charges should be filed against the Hares and that the local police chief should be dismissed. Indigenous people started holding their heads up after that victory. They started speaking out against abuses by the BIA and tribal government and white ranchers profiting off their land. We must not allow Raymond's fate to befall others. He says, again, this is Leonard Peltier in a letter to his tribe. My mother published yesterday. My mother used to ask with dismay, why is it so bad to be Indian? I find myself wondering why they hate us so. We will triumph over the misguided hate of others. Never ever forget who you are. We are the first people. Mother Earth herself fires the blood that runs through our veins. Protect each other, protect Mother Earth for future generations, and stand with oppressed peoples everywhere. Remember that true strength does not reside in holding power over others. Strength comes from living out of a place of humility and integrity, inspiring others to find their unique strengths. Oppression is rising, running like black mold through every facet of society. We must stand together and let society know that Indigenous lives are not cheap. The lives of our oppressed brothers and sisters are not cheap. All people are worthy of basic human dignity. Colonialism has all but destroyed us. We must do nothing less than transform society into a place where human beings are not disposable. If you do not weep if I'm not granted parole, cry freedom. Coalesce yourselves, galvanize your relationships, establish alliances. In the power of our people, we find strength. Hold your head up high. It's not over until it's over. In the spirit of Crazy Horse, Doksha, Leonard Peltier. Shit, man.
Mm-hmm. 80-year-old man. 80 years old.
Why?
Right to jail, right away.
Yeah, KYE so fucked up and sadistic. It's it is beautiful. I'm glad we brought it. I'm not sure how many people are even going to read that. At least on a stream, and I'm glad that at least we did. Yeah, a little heavy. Sorry. I know that Misty has been incredibly vocal about keeping the pressure on, and she was organizing even during the final weeks of before Julian was released, organizing phone call campaigns and postcard campaigns to try to drum up more support and to try to petition to grant parole. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, we live in such a weird world, like, where you've got, again, the choices right now that they're trying to put out there to quote unquote vote for as your leaders, which, okay. Yep. As Himbo says, don't ever let yourselves become numb to atrocity, folks. I know it's hard, and I certainly am working hard to do that. And Anna Mayer says, establish alliances now and touch grass. And I know she was out at Third Eye Carnival this weekend in Pueblo, Colorado with Steve Poikin.
Hey, shut up, Pueblo.
Well, we
must have had
a good time out there in the wilderness.
Where's my tamales and green chilies? Huh?
MCAR says free Mumia, Peltier, and the 100+ political prisoners in the U.S., or give them fair trials at least. And again, saying hug humans in real life and practice empathy, and certainly trying to do that. Go ahead.
I have something fun. If you can give me a single, please, sir.
Who are these people?
Oh,
who are these people?
We know that sound. That's the Nancy sound.
Appreciate the dono, fam.
Thank you.
I didn't see who that was, or unless you accidentally hit the button.
I did not.
From the Accord Lord.
John.
Thank you, Lord of Honda Accords. We appreciate you. Okay. So I was given this. I don't know if that can be read. That's Robert Rothschild's Moroccan carrot spread. For all your human suffering, put in a jar.
Settler colonialism in a jar, folks. There it is.
I just thought that it's hilarious, and I will keep this. Now, it was at the dollar store.
There it is. There is
how far the Rothschilds have fallen. They're at the dollar store. But
thank you, sir.
I don't know. I should probably look at the ingredients. I definitely don't think I'm going to eat it. The first two is water and cane sugar, so that should tell you something.
Is that an indica? Is kill your egregores? No, I don't think. Vegemite? That's funny. No hemp car. It's not Vegemite. It's some kind of carrot spread from Morocco.
Someone said on Twitter that like that should. Yeah, definitely don't eat that. It's probably made of Moroccans. And it's like, you know,
it's carrots and sadness is what it's made out of, Wesley.
Yeah.
Carrots and human suffering.
So
gross.
Yeah.
You know, the Accord Lord just dropped some cash on there, and want to give a shout out and a thank you to everyone else who's done that. And if you want to join that group, if you're able to, we really appreciate it. There's some ways to do that there. Cash.app/$Indie News Network, or just the $Indie News Network on your phone. Patreon, PayPal, Rumble. Jacqueline Jack is back on Patreon this week. She had some kind of thing with her credit card got hacked. We can't stand when that happens. I'm so sorry. We're glad to have you back. Thank you. Rumble.com/C/Indie News Network, INDIE. And we are live on Rumble, as Anna and Hempcar will show. We're live on Rockfin. We're live on Kick with Dr. Nick and with Transgemini and others. So we're all over the place, and we certainly appreciate everyone hanging out and joining us. So like I said, yeah, we're gonna do boats later tonight too. Well, at least we're gonna try. But so far we're doing all right. So that's looking good. I brought this because I did not know. I didn't really hear much about this. Now I'd heard about Baltimore. UPS to close facilities in Portland and Baltimore, threatening thousands of jobs. And this is Tom Hall from, again, the World Socialist website. I brought two of their articles. And I have to say, this year, their coverage on certain topics has been fantastic, whereas on others, I'm not such a big fan, but they're winning me over. And they're the only people talking from this perspective that I can find consistently on a regular basis. And I got to give them a lot of credit for that. They're talking about rank and file problems, and they're talking to actual workers on a regular basis, and they're finding out what are the actual problems. So what's happening in Baltimore, but now also in Portland, thanks to our wonderful friends at the Teamsters. UPS is set to temporarily close two more of its hubs for retooling into automated facilities, employing a fraction of the labor. Here comes the automation. The two facilities are its warehouses in Baltimore, Maryland, and the Swan Island facility in Portland, Oregon. All right. The Baltimore hub closure has already been widely reported and will affect approximately 540 workers when the facility closes at the end of this August. But the closure of Swan Island is being reported for the first time by World Socialist website on the basis of knowledgeable sources inside the building. Swan Island employs well over 1,000 people. According to the source, Swan Island is expected to become fully automated as of quote-unquote next year. Now, I don't know if everybody remembers or how many were watching here, but last year, Snow Himbo and I did a show called Nobody Wants to Work Anymore for about 15 episodes on INN. And it was when Snow first showed up here at the network, and we were kind of talking in DM threads about his looking for a job, my looking for a job, and it turned into talking about labor and talking about unions. And it was another summer of labor and a fall October, it was like another Striketober, where you had the quote unquote the stand-up strike from General Motors, you had the writer's strike and the actor strike that was happening simultaneously. There were a lot of people that were out of work. So we were talking about that. And one of the things that we talked about also was the UPS. Thank you. UPS and the Teamsters, all right, which were threatening, the Teamsters were threatening to strike all, I believe it was 330,000 UPS jobs at warehouses and drivers around the country. and they were practicing marching. They were really getting loud, and UPS had walked away from the table. But the last week, a week before, they actually came back to the table. And for whatever reason, the Teamsters accepted the first offer that was brought to them by UPS rather than holding out and actually going through with a strike. And we said at the time, based upon what, and we did a massive criticism of the UPS agreement with the Teamsters. One of the things that it would not protect against is this specific thing, which is automation and cutting jobs. They also didn't even get 10,000 part-timers converted to full-time, and there were more than 170,000 part-time workers. It didn't make any sense. It's just because UPS doesn't want to pay full-time benefits and give out full-time hours, and they're being cheap while they pay out tens of millions of dollars to their executive board. It's gross as shit. Himbo will tell you. Just ask him. Anna Mayer says, I love that show. Nobody wants to work anymore. Bring it back. You know, we've been talking about doing something like that. At least Reef and I did. I haven't talked to Himbo about that, but Himbo's now doing 2 shows on the network. He's doing Snow Himbo Gaming on Saturday nights, and he's now joined Greg, the Big Mad Crab, over at Politically Homeless on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern. So check that out. Getting back to this, right, that Swan Island is expected to become fully automated as of next year. Now, that could be the end of next year, but still, you're looking at 18 months out at most. The closures are part of an escalating assault on jobs as part of the company's Network of the Future. In a meeting earlier this year with top investors, UPS executives explained this restructuring program would aim to close 200 facilities and automate everything. This is on top of 12,000 mostly white-collar job cuts already announced this year. That's not good. The automation-driven cuts at UPS are part of a global jobs bloodbath by major corporations, and this is where I wanted to talk about what's happening in the general labor market. U.S.-based corporations alone have already announced around 1 million layoffs since the start of last year, according to an outplacement firm, Challenger, Gray and Christmas. God, is that like Lloyd Christmas? Is that Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber? I hope not. A separate study. I hope so, honestly. Well, that would be cool to. God, could you imagine having your last name be Christmas? Sorry to go off on a tangent there, but that just kind of
Christmas. I'm gonna call you Christmas.
No, not Christmas. Come on, it's the Grinch who stole Christmas. I mean, there's so many things you could do with that name. A separate study found that 4 in 10 business leaders expect artificial intelligence to be a major factor in layoffs in their industries this year. Forget the fact that they're making record profits, okay, and they're squeezing the fuck out of workers to begin with, and they're using this AI, quote unquote, as an excuse to further cut fat and make shit worse everywhere.
Look fat.
Instead of advances in labor-saving technologies to ease the burden of work and improve living conditions for the vast majority, under capitalism, they're being used to squeeze out every last ounce of profit from the working class. Huh, didn't I just say that? The jobs of as much as 80% of UPS's inside workforce are threatened by the automation drive. According to one HR insider, well, it sounds like the packaging and shipping industry is going to have a mass exodus. About 90% of the existing UPS facilities are they're conventional. So meaning that a single package might be touched by 10 people as it goes from truck to truck to truck. The loading, sorting, bagging, sorting for reload, and physically loading a truck again are all done by union employees in a conventional building, so it's much slower and far more prone to error. So what do they want to do? They want to cut it down to 2 people touching a package versus 10. Unloading is done by hand. Okay, everything in between. Sorting, scanning, routing, etc., all done by computers. And finally, it's reloaded by hand. All right. That's bad. New automated hubs employ only a fraction of the traditional workforce. The company's new Velocity hub in Louisville, Kentucky requires only 200 people to move 350,000 packages a day. Based on this, it's reasonable to assume that the Baltimore hub will reopen with a workforce of a little more than 100 people, while Swan Island will reopen with a little more than 200. So they're going to cut 80% of the heads.
Jesus.
According to UPS itself, these layoffs are made possible by labor certainty provided by the new Teamsters contract, with the bureaucracy rammed through its 340,000 members at UPS employing massive fraud, falsely claiming it represented a historic victory. And man, did I get into arguments with people about that still are arguing with me and telling me that UPS drivers are now all making $170,000 a year and they want to go work there. Yeah, you go sit in a hot truck for 3.5 hours a day.
Shit. Here we go again.
Yeah. Soon after the contract was ratified, UPS began laying off entire sort shifts at hubs around the country, including Swan Island and Baltimore. What a surprise. The Teamsters still have not even acknowledged the job cuts or the network of the future. What a surprise there, too. Sean O'Brien's been silent. Earlier this year, he held a so-called webinar lasting only a few minutes, referring vaguely to a contract enforcement campaign, quote-unquote. In fact, the contract contains no provisions against facility closures for the use of technology to eliminate jobs, The company is required only to give 45 days notice before such cuts are carried out. And they're doing that. Yes, those trucks don't even have proper AC. So much for profits for upgrading UPS vehicles. No, what they agreed to was only putting air conditioning in vehicles going forward January 1st of this year. And they agreed to put fans in all the existing vehicles. They did outfit and provide them with fans. When confronted...
Okay, first of all, I want you to go back and picture Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, when he's stuck in the Rhino and he has that little fan he's got to tap while drowning in his own sweat. I want you to think about that. Right? Like, like that's, a fan. Thanks, guys. It's 110. Like,
right?
What? You're in a metal box. Yeah, a fan's super helpful. Thanks.
When he was confronted at a local meeting in Portland earlier this year by a group of workers, a member of the national bargaining team blurted out that UPS had a right to lay off workers. Of course they do, because you didn't fight for them.
Yeah.
A source in Swan Island told the World Social... Well, sure. I mean, he's also a member of the union. I don't know how greedy he is per se, but they all made a deal. Yes.
The company.
Right. But yes, they're greedy dirtbags for sure. You know, again, it was the union, the pilots, and the company management themselves that made this deal kind of behind the scenes and came back to the table effectively to announce it without really telling anyone what it was going to be, then having them vote on it and railroading this thing through and telling all their local captains, you better push this through. We had one that said no, and man, did they get in trouble for that. They changed their tune and flipped it in a day. A source in Swan Island told the World Socialist website that the bureaucrats were well aware of the automation plans, but have not said anything to avoid a panic. In other words, that workers might mobilize independent of the sellout union officials to stop the layoffs, which they won't. They'll just start quitting and getting other jobs, and then UPS will have to either replace them or pay more money to get more people in, and they don't want to see a mass panic and a mass exodus until this plan is executed. They just want to keep these people on the hook, which is so fucked up. Meanwhile, at the new Teamsters administration,
all's an injustice,
hailed by pseudo-left quarters as the leaders of a resurgent reform movement in the U.S. trade unions. Thanks, Jonah Furman. Are openly courting.
There's definitely an episode of the Justice League where there's a villains union. I guarantee you. You know, like that's definitely a thing.
But the Teamsters are openly courting the extreme right. Now, this is where I disagree somewhat with World Socialist website. O'Brien has met numerous times with Donald Trump and is slated to speak at the Republican National Convention this month, which will have the character of a fascist rally.
Stop politicizing your union at all. How about that? How about that?
You were doing great defending workers until then and keeping this apolitical. Now, the fact that O'Brien has requested to speak at both the RNC and the DNC conventions tells me that he wants the voice of workers to be heard across both sides of the corporate spectrum. And that is not a bad thing. I don't want to alienate him from going out and speaking to a Republican-friendly audience and speaking on behalf of the Teamsters. I'd rather him do it than just about anybody else. I'd
rather him speak to workers. That's what I would rather him do.
He does that every day.
You know, what do I know?
He does that every day, but he's also been given a slot to speak at both conventions.
Can't do that every day when you're meeting with politicians one day. Sorry.
All right. Neither the DSA nor its House organ Jacobin magazine has given any accounting for how a figure whom they hailed as a key ally in the fight for union democracy has turned out to be a fascist sympathizer. Only in the fact that he also made a deal with Joe fucking Biden. Only if you're calling Joe Biden as fascist as Donald Trump. I hope you are. It doesn't sound like it.
I just want your vote.
It doesn't sound like it, but
don't be rude.
Don't be rude. Meanwhile,
Mom, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry. We're sorry. Meanwhile, opposition is building among the rank and file at UPS, except they signed a contract and they got nothing for 5 years. The UPS Workers Rank and File Committee, formed last year to oppose the sellout contract, has issued statements, strongly worded letters, demanding answers on the layoffs and calling on workers to organize themselves against the layoffs in rebellion against the union bureaucracy. You voted for these guys. In an open letter to Sean O'Brien in April, the committee declared Teamsters officials were deliberately concealing information on the layoffs and demanded the full release of all information that bureaucracy has on where, how, and when the cuts will take place. Seems reasonable. Quote, the reason we're demanding this information is so that the rank and file has access to the critical information it needs to organize a fight against layoffs from below. We have no illusions that you and the rest of the bureaucracy will suddenly see the light and come to our side. You've already given your answer with your stony silence. A statement concluded, we workers have every right to take all action deemed necessary to protect our jobs, regardless or whether you choose to sanction them or not. If you will not fight the layoffs, then get out of the way so that UPS workers can do it ourselves, unquote. And remember that the Teamsters represent a lot more than just UPS. So Sean O'Brien has a lot more to worry about, and he's got a very different set of priorities than the UPS workers that he screwed over last year.
Right.
Things do not get any better for our friends over at the Teamsters, friends, quote unquote. As I'm doing research and I searched, hey, just give me a Google search for the word, or a Twitter search for the word Teamsters. I uncovered this, which was posted on July 4th, Independence Day, by a guy by the name of Dennis Yu. Dennis Yu tells a story.
Dennis me?
No, not Dennis Reef. Dennis Yu.
Dennis Yu. Dennis me? Dennis
us.
Sorry, I will not do the rush hour joke.
Thank you. Dennis says, my friend Alex.
Who's on first?
Is a pilot at Allegiant Airlines. At dinner last night, we laughed about how I fly even more than he does. Allegiant has been the butt of many jokes, but their pilots have been mistreated and underpaid. Largely because the Teamsters, yes, that Teamsters, Jimmy Hoffa, and trucker drivers have done a poor job of handling contract negotiations. Wait, you mean Sean O'Brien isn't a top negotiator? No.
He ain't no Jimmy Hoffa, is he?
Because of this delay.
No broken kneecaps in any negotiation.
Because of this delay, okay, Allegiant cannot fix poor working conditions for pilots and cannot hire enough pilots, leading to operational issues. Wall Street has hammered the stock, sending it from 130 to 49 as of yesterday. The Allegiant pilots hired me to wage a PR campaign to get attention on the issues, getting it approved, ready for this, via the Teamsters 2118. That's their local. We built their website. We recorded content like the picture below, and I'll show you that. We ran $1-a-day campaigns and got millions of eyeballs on it. We did great work, which the Allegiant pilots agree, but the Teamsters don't want to pay. Ironic that they're mistreating him since they hired him to bring attention to their plight. The Allegiant pilots are so unhappy with the Teamsters, they're leaving the Teamsters and switching to the ALPA Pilots Association, which is where most pilots are. So if you want to help me out, please comment Teamsters pay Dennis below so they can see it. The guy on the left is the pilot who's Alex, his friend. All right. Okay. And the Teamsters guy in charge is Greg Unterseer. Let him know what you think. And underneath is his LinkedIn. So if you want to go and send him a nice little message, you're certainly free to do that. Be polite, as I would say. If you choose not to be, I can't stop you. 48% engagement rate on this post. You guys rock. The problem is that he's only got 156 views on it.
Yeah.
Guy needs more eyeballs because, again, the Teamsters, screwing over Jim Christensen. I know I responded also and I said, hey, pay this guy. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Nick says, I did learn from Kit and Hardlens to be respectful. Be respectful. But
bad news, bad things are happening.
I also wanted to mention one other thing about the Teamsters. You know, a couple of weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago, we did a story about Amazon Labor Union and the Teamsters and how I was questioning what the hell's going on there and how we don't know what's going to happen. But as a follow-up and as a side, when the New York Times decides to do a write-up about what happened, you can guess that it's some kind of a corporate capture that's doing some kind of a fluff piece. And we know what's going on there.
Oh, God, not the Pooh Dork Times.
This is a snow job. All right, and I'm not going to read this article. I wanted to bring the headline. And this is the scrappiness. How the Teamsters and a homegrown union plan to take on Amazon while we completely side with the bosses every other time and side for genocide and push for profits and squeeze you dry every moment. Fuck you, New York Times. All I got to say is fuck you. Keep your hands off workers because we see you. All right? Don't talk about, they know nothing about what's going on with workers and you. All this they don't know anything about it except from the boardroom. Keep your name out our mouth. Or keep our name out your mouth. That too. But I did want to point out one thing that the Teamsters actually did okay with. But it also ties into this whole Amazon Teamsters thing. You know, the Teamsters have offered all kinds of support to Amazon Labor Union, and they claim that they're asking nothing in return. But do we really believe that? Do we really believe that forever there'll be no ask of anything in return? Reef?
What? No, of course not. Why should we ever ask for fucking things?
The reason why I say that is I found this again while I was searching. Actually, I found this through. Here's another story. We did an article a few months back about an aggregator labor site called laborunionnews.com. And about a month ago,
330.
about a month ago, the guy who runs that website reached out to me. His name is Peter List. Turns out he was a former union buster. He said, as it turns out, the article that Mike wrote was really kind of a smear piece. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm really trying to aggregate all sides of it. And I'll give you, and I was offering Mike a free premium paid membership so you can see all the articles that I curate and aggregate, and that I'm not pushing any one agenda or the other. Okay. So I've been reading these things as it, as he publishes them and going through, and he'll post 50 or 60 articles. He posts people that are hiring at different unions, and it's a pretty decent aggregator, I have to say. For a paid one, I mean, I would make it probably free, but I understand people's time is worth something. But I found this in his paid section.
Pretty good.
I found that in his paid section, and I want to give credit where credit's due, because he turned me around a little bit in this case, at least, because he found this one, that Amazon drivers are striking over labor violations at Skokie Station in Illinois. All right. And they're doing it with help from the Teamsters.
Okay. Of course.
After Amazon drivers in Skokie went on strike last month over alleged violations of federal labor laws, more than a dozen members of Illinois' congressional delegation have demanded the company refrain from union busting tactics. Again, with a strongly worded letter.
Sorry, where?
Illinois.
Where?
Skokie.
Where? Sorry, you were mispronouncing that state. You know you are.
Illinois.
Dare you?
Illinois. A group of 104 drivers, organized with Teamsters Local 705, have called for Amazon to recognize the union and negotiate a contract. Yeah, Amazon's good at not recognizing unions and stonewalling negotiating contracts. The drivers are employed by contractor 4-Star Express Delivery, and they claim Amazon retaliated against their organizing efforts by terminating the contractor's agreement. Quote, every Amazon driver knows who our true employer is, striking driver Lou Giancato said in a statement. We wear their uniforms and drive their trucks. They decide whether we can be hired or fired. We make them their profits, and we organize a union with the Teamsters for our fair share. And got fired for it. Thanks, Sean O'Brien.
Yep. Yeah, that's your fair share.
Workers showed up at Amazon's DIL-7 facility in Skokie with what they said was documentation showing a majority of them were in favor of joining the union, according to video from the Teamsters. No, we don't accept that, one of the managers says. Organizers demanded $30 an hour, 40 hours of guaranteed work, and better benefits. Currently, they're paid about $20 an hour, are rarely scheduled for a full work week, and have expensive and low-quality health insurance, according to the Teamsters. The negative emotions that Amazon preys on, fear, isolation, manipulation, an organizer tells striking workers in that video, we exist above with that pride, dignity, and honor. We exist above that, Well, we try to. But they're making it hard when they get rid of the people that are existing above that.
It just reminds me of that Michael Jackson song. Free isolation, manipulation. Anyway, just my brain's dumb. My apologies.
On Tuesday, U.S. Reps Jan Schakowsky.
They don't really care about us.
That's Michael Jackson? Really? Okay.
I think.
Anyway, on Tuesday, U.S. Reps Jan Schakowsky, Chewy Garcia, and Nikki Budzinski sent a letter to Amazon CEO Andy Jassy about reports of intimidation and retaliation against the Skokie workers. They were joined by 10 other members of Congress, every House Democrat from Illinois other than Brad Schneider. Why wouldn't anyone else from Congress join that letter to... Well, it's not my state, so why should I give a shit? As if there weren't fucking Amazon facilities in every state around the country. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Also, how did we pass up Chewy Garcia, the best Ben & Jerry's flavor that hasn't been invented yet?
Chewy Garcia?
Yeah. Chewy Garcia.
unfair labor practice charges leveled against Amazon include allegations that the company terminated employees for organizing, surveilled union activities, implemented a hiring freeze in response to unionization efforts, suppressed pro-union speech on message boards, pretextually altered employment terms to limit union activity, and sought to permanently close the facility in response to union organizing, according to the letter. This week's letter from most of Illinois congressional Democrats follows another oversight letter sent to Amazon last month by a bipartisan group of senators, following up on another one in February. Amazon doesn't give a fuck, folks. The Senate has not received a serious response, according to the letter, which described Amazon's responses as insufficient so far, and will continue to be, because they're buying all you motherfuckers. Chakowski, Garcia, and Budzinski's letter noted that this is not the first time the world's largest e-commerce company has been accused of violating the 1935 labor law that still governs unionization efforts in the United States. Union busting is disgusting. Amazon has now been accused of several serious breaches of the NLRA. Thank you. And I didn't even know it.
You didn't know it.
But Amazon has now been accused of several serious breaches of the NLRA in recent years. And as you're aware, an NLRB administrative law judge recently ruled that you broke federal labor law with your public comments regarding increased union efforts by Amazon workers, and advised that you should avoid threatening your employees with similar comments in the future. Advised. In accordance with that ruling and advice, Amazon...
You violated the law.
Basically, Amazon was ordered to notify employees at its facilities that the NLRB has found that it violated federal labor law. And they did so very tepidly. The members of Congress asked Amazon to respond by July 15th, which they might, if they feel like it, because nothing will happen to them if they don't.
Yeah.
As members of the Illinois delegation, we are committed to ensuring that Amazon respects the rights of its workers, including its DSP drivers in Skokie. We ask for your commitment to refrain from threats of intimidation and retaliation as DSP drivers exercise their rights to organize a union.
Or what?
And if
you're going to get the Boeing guy to show up?
And if they so choose, bargain collectively to negotiate in good faith to secure improvements in their wages and working conditions. With ice cream and rainbows and unicorns, too. That's what Congress is basically begging Amazon to do. An Amazon spokesperson issued a statement to reporters after last week's action. This protest was initiated and has been attended by mostly outside organizers and individuals who don't work for Amazon, and has no impact on our operations or our ability to deliver for customers. Because it's all about operations and ability to deliver for customers. Forget about the people who actually do work there. 4-Star Express Delivery is an independently owned company that voluntarily closed its business on May 30th and no longer delivers for Amazon. Yeah, they voluntarily closed because you cut the contract that was keeping them in business. According to the layoff notice provided to state commerce regulators, 4-Star Express Delivery LLC, with an address listed in Skokie, announced that it would lay off 104 workers on June 25th after providing 2 weeks' notice. Its stated reason, lost contract. Owner Jerry Maros told workers the company that has lost its principal client in the first week of June in an unforeseeable development after a majority of workers signed union cards. How about that? Teamsters president Sean O'Brien said Amazon responded to workers by exercising their right to organize with bullying and law breaking, and that the company's delivery service provider, or DSP, program was exploitative, which it is. He says, but Amazon drivers in Skokie refuse to be intimidated by the white-collar criminals running this company. Like you? You're a white-collar criminal, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
The Teamsters Union The Teamsters Union appreciates the support of elected officials who are showing real backbone against corporate America by standing with these brave workers. No, not Chris. No, not Chris. Oh. Other Amazon drivers organized with Teamsters have picketed more than 30 Amazon warehouses in an ongoing unfair labor practice strike, according to the union. And last month, Amazon warehouse workers, as we covered at the company's JFK 8 facility in Staten Island, voted to join the Teamsters with more than 98% of the ballots. Listen to that shit. Yeah, 98% out of a total.
What's up with that?
What's up with that? Well, first of all, it wasn't 5,500 workers there. 10% of the fucking workforce voted. They didn't tell anybody. They gave nobody time to look at this thing. They gave nobody time to vote.
What's up with that?
What's up with that? All right. 5,500 workers there will become members of a newly chartered Amazon Labor Union IBT, or ALU-IBT Local 1. Are you fucking kidding me? Thank you. I work for one of the richest men in the world, and I've had to skip meals to make sure my child eats and my bills are paid, Ebony Echeverria, one of the striking Skokie drivers, said. That just ain't right.
Oh, God.
Amazon stock last month, by the way, hit a stock market valuation in excess of $2 trillion for the first time. Thank you. Founder Jeffrey Bezos, who announced last year he was moving from Seattle to Miami.
You're welcome.
Okay, this week disclosed plans to sell $5 billion worth in stock in the company to bring his total windfall this year for offloading the record high stock to $13.5 billion in 2024.
Jeffrey Bezos.
Fuck, dude.
And we're fighting for scraps when this motherfucker's cashing out $13.5 billion this year. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. What's up with that? What's up with that? Kill your egregores.
What's up with that?
What's up with that? I don't know what's up with that.
There's a clap for that.
KYE, the Teamsters of the 90s backed my decision to seek out the best backdoor way before the internet days start of 1993.
Backdoor?
Hey now.
Phrasing?
Seriously. Crumbs is right. That's what they're trying to do, is make us happy with crumbs. Speaking of crumbs, if you have a couple of crumbs, please feel free to help us out and drop us a couple of bucks over there at a couple different ways to do it. Cash App, Patreon, PayPal, Rumble. We even get tips over on Rockfin. Ko-fi, you see the QR code. You can hold up your cell phone and scan that with your phone app. Hold up the phone. It'll bring up a URL. You tap it.
There.
Not for Greta. Come on, man.
If we can save the banks, then we can save the world.
I swear that's got to be AI. That's got to be AI. He did not really say that.
No.
He did not really say that. No. Oh, doctor, not door, not back door. Hey, you said backdoor way. Yes, I did.
Doctor.
It was doctor. Okay.
Doctor.
The best the Teamsters backed my decision to seek out the best back doctor way before the internet days. That changes the whole tone of the discussion. Yes, sir.
We know what's on Indy's brain.
Oh. I could use a back doctor at the moment, as a matter of fact.
Sorry, children.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm broken. My back.
Yeah, my neck and my back. All right. What if I find What? What was that? What's up? My leg?
No, my leg.
What's up with that? What's up with that? So you know that we have a resident poet in this their place named Jett, and he kind of inspires all of us to write things and to do things. And the other day I woke up and my back hurt, and I got inspired to write.
Your neck,
and
your back.
And I wrote a haiku. Well, it didn't start out as a haiku, and it was close enough. And I said, fuck, is that a haiku? I'm going to make it a haiku. And here's my haiku.
Are you sure?
Hurt my back
Count the
coughing.
syllables, everyone.
5 syllables. Hurt my back coughing. Welcome to 50 years old. Happy July 4th. Thank you, Jett.
Confucius say.
All right. And Gordon said, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Many returns. July 4th. Well, my political account was born on July 4th. I'm not going to tell anyone when my birthday actually was. Some people know. This was last week's.
Yeah.
And this was by the way, we were cut off thanks to my ISP being a douche again last week. So that is out. We did a replay on Tuesday night, and it's out on Spotify, also the podcast, so you can watch the podcast. Thank you for the awesome. Thank you for credit on my haiku. I even turned it into a GIF because I got all fancy and creative and made it bigger like that. Put the who to follow and where to go for that. So I just wanted to share that. That was a little fun thing. But I did actually hurt my back, which sucks. So I'm standing right now because standing. Oh my God.
Happy birthday.
That's Marilyn Monroe, everyone.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Oh, Himbo. No, I don't need a backdoor doctor. I need a back doctor, sir. Sir, where's your mind? Phrasing. Okay. I talked earlier about what Oz mentioned was to him the most important thing happening right now that people aren't talking enough about.
This
and he
is the
mentioned
most election of our lifetime.
Can we just stop talking about that person, please, forever? Can we become unburdened by her, please? So we're gonna go to Indie Media Award honoree Mondo Weiss talking about an op-ed that I saw this morning. That's right, Snow Himbo. Boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I poop on company time. That's Karl Marx. I don't think that was Marx.
You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
I swear, I think she was drunk. But I thought this one was interesting. Being a Jewish person and knowing some people who still support Israel, they're not going to like this article. And if you support Israel, you may want to turn this off right now.
Israel?
But
I go, why?
But you might not want to turn this off, and you might need to listen. If you support Israel in the middle of a genocide, you're an awful person. Let's cut to the chase. If you're fretting about anti-Semitism and the fears of insecurities of Jewish students in the middle of a genocide, you are an awful human being. Again, this is an area targeted by Israeli bombardment. There's literally nothing left. During the worst attack on Gaza before this one in 2014, Stephen Salita, and by the way, this is written by Joseph Levine. I'm guessing that he's not a Palestinian person. Joseph Levine from Mondo Weiss. During the worst attack on Gaza before this one in 2014, Stephen Salita, a Palestinian professor of American Indian Studies, had a tenured offer withdrawn by the University of Illinois over some strongly worded tweets he posted concerning that attack.
Where?
Not Illinois, Illinois, because you're annoying.
Definitely Illinois.
You're Illinois. Yes,
Illinois.
you are. You're Illinois.
Illinois. I'm sorry. I live in Mental, Illinois. How dare you?
Soon after, I published a piece in the New York Times blog, The Stone, also seen here, concerning one of those tweets. It said, let's cut to the chase. If you're defending hashtag Israel right now, you're an awful human being. And that was at 11:46 p.m. on July 8th, 2014.
Bye-bye, Israel.
I wasn't addressing the obvious violation of academic freedom represented by his case, nor the appropriateness of his moral outrage at Israel's actions. Regarding those issues, I was totally with him. Instead, I considered whether I thought the claim in the tweet was in fact true. Were defenders of Israel during this attack indeed awful human beings? Let's set aside the obvious hyperbole of the statement and the fact that, of course, most people, no matter their deplorable views, cannot simply be summed up as awful. I disagree, but human character is a complicated affair. What I take to be the point of the claim, however, is that if someone, after the horrific punishment meted out by Israel on Gaza, could still defend Israel, then this manifested a serious moral character flaw. Without completely rehearsing my answer to the question 10 years ago, briefly, it went like this.
A mental character flaw? Is this person, Indy, if you follow nonviolent communication, you're not, mental judgment is the root of all violence, Indy. How dare you? How dare you?
Well, I dare.
Well, how dare you?
I dare.
How dare you? Ugh.
It's important to distinguish between the moral status of an action and the moral...
How dare you!
It's important to distinguish between the moral status of an action and the moral character of a person. As applied to the 2014 Israeli attack, I argued that though Israel's actions were indeed morally atrocious, people of decent character could still defend it given the surrounding social and informational environment in which they lived. Sounds like you're making an excuse for genocide, personally, but that's okay. Not really, but all right. Given the nature of Western, especially American media, the standard assumptions of people's families and friends, etc., it's actually quite understandable how good, decent people might be misled into defending what are, in fact, morally abominable actions. But what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
I then interpreted Salita's tweet as both aspirational and interventionist. I saw it as aspirational in the sense that it pointed to a world where people were sufficiently well informed by the media, that's what we're doing here, and their surrounding social environment so that in fact only an awful human being would support Israel's actions. Well, you got a couple of them here. The way I put it then was that the tweet wasn't true, but ought to be. It was interventionist in the sense that he was helping to get us to that world by modeling the reaction that one ought to have. Well, okay. As I've watched Israel's genocide unfold these past 9 months and seen so many political and media figures either outright defend Israel or produce so-called nuanced criticisms laced with excuses, J Street, I've had many occasions to think about Salita's tweet. Given the scale of the current genocidal attack on Gaza and the abundance of information available from social media, and even the mainstream media, though one usually has to ignore the framing, is it now true that only an awful human being would defend Israel? This time, I think the case for answering in the affirmative is quite strong. One might ask at this point whether the question really matters. As I'm not a fan of clean hands politics, I don't think one's judgments of moral character normally have clear consequences about how one should behave politically. If the political calculation warrants it, I will hold my nose or get my hands dirty when required. For example, though I indeed judge Joe Biden to be an awful human being, stupidly, this person will vote for him to keep a much more awful and much more dangerous human being from winning in the election. Except that Joe Biden is more awful and more dangerous in just about every way. And it doesn't matter because Biden is blue Trump. Good for you, you fucking dumbass. Biden's blue Trump, Trump's red Biden. How many times I gotta fucking tell you people? Biden's blue Trump, Trump has read Biden. If you don't like that, sorry, take it up with those assholes. However, I do think this question of moral character matters a lot in two arenas. Now I have question over your entire judgment of morality because you're thinking that Joe Biden's any better than Donald Trump, and you're a fucking moron for that. However, I do think this question of moral character matters a lot in two arenas, what I'll call deliberation in the public sphere and local interpersonal relations. By the first, I have in mind the many controversies we're now seeing in a large variety of settings over how to speak about Israel and Gaza. Remember, this is in Mondoweiss. Organizations of every sort, whether it be government bodies like city councils and school boards, or NGOs like schools, universities, sports associations, online communities, private businesses, etc., are dealing with questions and making public statements in the name of the organization on Gaza and disciplining the kind of speech concerning Gaza that takes place within the organizational spaces.
Like for instance, if someone on Delta Airlines, who looked fabulous and put together, by the way, should be on covers of magazines and whatnot, wore a Palestinian pin, God forbid, he might get blasted online so that, his job can get taken away.
Yeah.
Like and if Delta, I swear to God, if you capitulate to that, no one should be flying Delta anyway. But,
He says, I mentioned this arena mainly to set it aside here, but see this excellent discussion of the issue. And in the spirit of full disclosure, the author is my daughter. The only point I want to make here is regarding the controversies taking place in these public spaces over how to address Gaza, is that this question of moral character is playing an important role, if only implicitly. One might think of it this way. Where is the line between the demands of minimal decency, not being an awful human being, and demands that are clearly political?
Yeah.
The case of 2023 and 2024 Gaza is bringing this question to the fore in unprecedented ways. But it's in the second arena, the realm of interpersonal relations, where I have experienced the effects of the Sala'ida claim most deeply. Until recently, I've been able to separate my political commitment to Palestinian liberation from my personal relations. You know what that means? He's overlooking Zionism and looking the other way about monstrosities regularly. He's saying there are many people, a number of them friends who I knew felt quite differently from me about Israel-Palestine, and yet toward whom I had warm and friendly feelings. But now that's changed. Not completely, but in important and quite discernible ways. There are now many people whose company I can no longer unequivocally enjoy, or in some cases even tolerate.
Yeah, good for you.
In particular, I feel very differently about certain Jewish friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. I'm thinking of people who actively affirm their Jewish identity as an important part of their lives, especially those who see Zionism or some special connection to Israel as an important component in their sense of Jewishness. As I said above...
Well, and you're gonna hate me for bringing this up, but you've definitely had to deal with stuff similar to this. So friends, family,
as I said above, yes. Let me finish. As I said above, parents. in the past, I could look past this difference in our views, but now after Gaza, I can't any longer. I find that all of my interactions with these folks are emotionally colored in a way that prevents me from experiencing the kind of warm fellow feeling I used to feel in their company. I include here not only people defending Israel straightforwardly, actually, I don't pretty much associate with people who do that, but primarily those who, with much liberal hand-wringing and consternation, express their sorrow over the loss of Palestinian life, but then pivot to discussing the horrors of October 7th and the difficulty of dealing with terrorism and Israeli Jewish feelings of insecurity. And then what really gets me going, the worrisome increase in anti-Semitism. I've recently spoken and written about the groundless charge that the protest movement is infected with anti-Semitism, charges that are taken for granted in many spaces. The political and media establishment, for starters, but also most prominent Jewish organizations, Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now being the notable exceptions. And the Torah Jews, too, the Torah rabbis. They're amazing. My writing and speaking about this has been mostly defensive in the sense that I rebut the arguments that claim to show how anti-Semitic the movement is, especially those that conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And while I think publicly rebutting these arguments is necessary, and I'm sure, unfortunately, there will still be a need to do this often in the future, the politically expedient and perhaps necessary adoption of this defensive mode has left me feeling frustrated and inadequate. Here, then, is what I say to these Jewish friends and acquaintances who fret about anti-Semitism, especially those who perceive attacks on Israel as attacks on their identity. One way of thinking about Jewish identity is to think of one's relation to the rest of the Jewish people as a kind of family relation. A people is sort of like a very, very large family. Israel, the Jewish state, can then be thought of as the family project. I think this is how many Jews do feel about Israel, and helps to explain their taking criticism of Israel personally. However, while solidarity with and concern for one's family members is certainly a crucial part of identifying with the family, so is taking responsibility for what one's family members do. If my children say we're to engage in morally atrocious behavior, my greatest concern wouldn't be how people reacted to me and my family. My primary concern would be to rectify the wrong done to the extent possible. So in that vein, I ask, is the moment the Jewish family project is engaging in genocide the morally appropriate time to worry about negative feelings expressed about Jews? Wouldn't a mensch devote all of their energy to putting a stop to the family's criminal behavior first? Allying with everyone fighting for that goal, as we see JVP and If Not Now doing? And put aside one's concerns about how some chants are phrased and some tropes are expressed. See this for a particularly good example of what I'm talking about. And what he's talking about is the phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which has been fucking outlawed in states, and people are they're losing their fucking minds.
It's not as bad as outlawing red triangles
that Minnesota just did.
Thanks,
Germany. Germany just did that, right?
Yeah.
In the spirit of the Salaida tweet, I will then end with this. Anyone who is fretting about anti-Semitism, about the fears and insecurities of Jewish students on campuses, and all the other complaints about anti-Semitic tropes that are sometimes carelessly expressed by those reacting to the horror of Gaza, to them I say, fuck Israel, and let's cut to the chase. If this is what's occupying your concerns right now, in the midst of a genocide being perpetrated by your own people, you're an awful human being. End scene. I disagree with who his choice is and his rationalization for voting for Joe Biden, but the rest of it I identify with very, very closely. And man, talk about a douche and a turd. The choice between a giant douche and a steaming turd. All right. We certainly get demonetized for stories like that. So if you appreciate talking about Jews fighting against their own and fighting against the Zionists, the Jewish Zionists that are shaming and browbeating the anti-Zionist Jews, as well as intimidating the rest of the world, threatening to dox, trying to get them fired, everything else, support INN, support independent media. We're the only people that are holding Israel accountable, that are holding the Zionists accountable, because Zionists are also Christians. As Reef and Colin did an extensive coverage of about 10 weeks ago on INN News, Christian Zionists in the United States outnumber Jewish Zionists worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize just how strong and how well funded the Christian Zionist movement is.
A lot of that Christian Zionist movement doesn't even realize that they are Christian Zionists. They have no idea. Like, it's just it's been snuck in and become part of them. It's fucking weird. You know?
So I got some quick around the worlds, and then we're going to go to boats at around midnight or a little bit later. Well, let's get to this stuff now.
Who are these people?
Around the world.
All right. How many of you people, and I think we talked about this, who are these people? We talked about this about a month ago. Kit Clarenberg and Alex Rubenstein, our favorite law firm overseas, just kidding, started a new channel called Active Measures.
Rubenstein and
Clarenberg, that's right. Clarenstein and Rubenberg.
Rubenthal and Clarenberg.
That's right. So they did a segment, and Alex recorded a segment, 2.5 minutes, that I thought was really interesting. Hey, did you hear the one about the fake documentary about Ukrainian Nazis on Netflix?
Another day, another major American company is whitewashing Ukrainian Nazis. First Disney, now Netflix, which is carrying a film about the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, an offshoot of the Azov Battalion. The 3rd Separate Assault Brigade has since its inception maintained a green light to receive weapons from NATO countries and was trained by the French military. One Ukrainian fighter even had an SS tattooed on his face, according to a French investigative outlet. One member, quote, gave Hitler salutes and takes a selfie with a neck warmer decorated with a Celtic cross. A second poses with the emblems of the SS divisions Totenkampf and Galicia. 2 others are also fond of Totenkampf, which they wear on a patch or a t-shirt. On April 20, Adolf Hitler's birthday, another soldier in the group is shown posing in front of a mural in his honor. The commander of the 3rd Assault Brigade is none other than Andrei Beletsky, the former founder of the Azov Battalion, who famously vowed to lead the white races of the world in the final crusade against the Semite-led Untermenschen. If you haven't watched our deep dive on the Azov Battalion, I highly recommend you check it out after this video. While the film was made to look like a documentary, it's not. It's got paid actors, a script, and it's listed as a mockumentary by Netflix. It was just released on July 3rd, and only the next day, it's already ranking 3rd in the country behind Beverly Hills Cop and a rom-com about Zac Efron banging Nicole Kidman. The film is directed by a man named Lubomir Levitsky, who studied at the Aspen Institute think tank in Kiev. This think tank, which received significant funding from the United States government, was actually responsible for preparing social media and traditional media companies ahead of the Hunter Biden laptop story to help them frame it as Russian disinformation. Meanwhile, the film was financed by a company called Favbat, a Ukrainian online gambling company which was granted exemption from Ukraine's draconian conscription laws. According to the director Levitsky, special screenings were organized for the Pentagon, the United States Senate, and foreign diplomats. Quote, I want them and the American taxpayers to see where their money is going and in whose hands those weapons are in. And according to Levitsky, some of the funds for this project will go directly to the 3rd Assault Brigade. So if you're watching Netflix, you could be funding neo-Nazism.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video or any of our other content, please give us a follow on Twitter or subscribe to us on YouTube. It'll help us beat the algorithm oligarchs. Thank you.
That's Kitty Clarenberg right there for you. Kitty! All right.
Rubenberg and Clarenstein.
That's right.
Attorneys at law.
Item number 2. Yeah, what is a mockumentary? Real question. Anna asking, what is a mockumentary? It's a fake documentary that's actually like a joke and that actually like tells jokes and it's like it's designed to be a comedy, but in the style of a documentary, almost like The Office in a way.
Yeah, what's the famous The Rock one? All these go up to 11. And
Spinal Tap.
Stonehenge. That's it. Spinal Tap.
This is Spinal Tap.
There's been some good ones.
Giving some more love to our friends over on the Kick platform. I put out an article this week because we have joined Kick and we would like everyone to join us over there as well. I had no idea just how many people were watching shit on Kick. Did you know that? Hi, Kick, by the way. Love to our friends over on Kick. INN is now over on Kick, streaming a new-ish video platform for live streams with a ton of traffic right now. They've got a free app in the App Store as well as the Google Play Store. We're sorry. You can download those right from there. According to Streams Charts, which is a ranking agency, a company that ranks who's live at any one moment, Kick is the third most viewed online platform right now on the internet. Third only behind YouTube and Twitch. And it's not even close. I mean, YouTube is just smoking everyone. And Twitch is doing very well. Kick is about 1/10 of the size of Twitch. All right. So you can now find us 185 million hours watched in the past 30 days as of July 5th. And when I took a snapshot, there were 243,000 people watching something at that moment live on Kick. It also told me that the 31% just chatting is the primary category share of people that spend time on the platform. So a lot of it is just people hanging out and chatting. We've been live for a week. Give it a look. These are the VODs that we've had, and we're now able to change the title after the fact. So we went back and did that. And I put up this nice little graphic. INN is now on Kick, and that is the URL kick.com/Indie News Network, INDIE News Network, as always. I wanted to, again, give a shout out. It's been a while since we talked about the Indie Media Awards website. I know we talk about honorees every week on the show. Kick is way bigger than Rumble, Dr. Nick. Not even close. Now, when it comes to politics, I think the Kicker's not bigger than Rumble. But overall, Rumble is 7th ranking platform, and they're like a quarter of the size of Kick, according to the stream traffic. And Rumble has been knocking it the fuck out and still getting crushed by Kick. Now, one of the things that I pointed out to the folks over at Rumble when I looked at their graph like this, look at this graph, was that their languages was 100% English. They are missing out on foreign language speakers, not just in the United States, but worldwide. But that is the potential.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Well, they do. They only speak it, but they need to speak other languages. And I have a platform and a program who I am affiliated with that can help with that. And I'm working to try to get in front of the right people. His name is Rick Rosella. If you do, tweet at Rick_Rack. He's at Rumble, and tell him, hey, I wish Rumble offered Spanish language or any other language as an alternate to chat in and to read all of my, to look at all the stream titles and everything in. Not only that, but I sent them a video that these guys.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
That's just one dialect, but yes, it does cover that. These guys also work with some famous celebrities, and even did a thing where they can dub somebody's voice and make it sound like they're speaking a foreign language on a podcast. Yeah. So how cool would it be if, for example, How Did We Miss That in Spanish? I read this whole podcast in Spanish. I did this whole show, and you would not know that I wasn't speaking Spanish the entire time.
I can't understand you.
Exactly. Is that Clayton Bigsby?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Oh, God, I shouldn't say that on fucking stream. Don't ever say that again. Do not cut that, anybody. All right. I also wanted to give Anna Mayers is over on Rockfin. She was hanging this weekend with our friend Steve Poikinen, and I had to borrow, and it's a little bit of an homage and a little bit of a whatever you want to call it, but I kind of adopted the language that he likes to use, and he didn't invent it by any stretch, but he certainly uses it, and it's the reason why I'm familiar with it. INN Stack by Indie News Network operates on a value for value system, as coined by Adam
Coming to
Curry.
Substack newsletter near you.
As coined by Adam Curry and John Dvorak on their No Agenda podcast. Fucking podcast. We don't pay all our content, but we do need and deeply appreciate your support in order to keep running. And one way to do that is with a monthly subscription here, if you feel you get value out of the shows and articles and can spare a few bucks a month. So we're going to try to go for this value for value model. Seven Sword Mary says thank you because the surveillance censorship on locals is a bit more off the rails lately. Been there, done that. That's pretty interesting. So again, check out INN on Kick, and thank you so much for supporting INN Stack. You also get a weekly update on INN Stack, and we publish it every Friday afternoon of all of the live streams and appearances for all the INN members, as well as a link to Cash App everywhere else. Clip Show Friday nights with Jesse, etc., etc. Getting back to the Indie Media Award honorees, several of them were featured on a cartoon graphic that many of you have seen floating around social media this week. Really excited about what they did and this artist, and I connected with them, and we're going to try to work something out to create something to honor all the honorees from 22 and 23 that we can get to, as well as the class for 2024 when we release them in the fall. IndieMediaAwards.com will take you to a link tree. Link tree will come here. It'll take you either Twitter, Instagram, which we don't really post much to, or here, where there is a page with the links for every single person on this list. So, for example, if you want to find Sam Husseini, all of his links are right there. There is a page with the links linking every Indie Media Award honoree. And Sam was also featured on that graphic this weekend. And excited to start working on some of the new graphics for and making some updates for 2024 to the Indie Media Award Substack page and website. This was designed and built completely by me and Misty and the people at INN as a tribute and to honor the people in independent media that don't get nearly enough visibility and light. And that honors top journalists, live streamers, podcasters, outlets, and video creators, which was a new category we added for last year. You can see that by year broken down or by category. And you can also look at the archive, which will give you all of the old posts to look at. So Off Guardian, for example, was an honoree for 2023. I almost brought an Off Guardian article tonight, but I didn't. But please support them too. They're heavily shadow banned and heavily censored. Off-Guardian.com. No, Dr. Nick, not all those faces on the graphic were Indie Media Award honorees. There were about 9 of them. A lot of them actually were not Indie Media Award honorees. A lot of them don't even really technically work for independent media. They actually work for a network or corporate-ish media.
Semi-corporate, yeah.
I've had an issue putting Glenn Greenwald on that list, to be honest with you, because we know that he is paid by Rumble, which is paid by Peter Thiel and big investor money. Garland Nixon works for RT or works for Sputnik while he does a phenomenal independent podcast, and I love him. I got conflicted issues with that. You know, I mean, I had it with Lee Camp initially, but RT didn't exist anymore. He's independent as it gets. And that was kind of the line that we had drawn. So it was a little difficult.
But you're working on making a new graphic with that guy.
We are. So I reached out. I reached out to him, and he's going to be working on hooking up each one of the honorees with their own image, and then we'll try to make a nice poster and really do.
He just said honorees that time. He didn't
do these people
get
justice.
the noise. He's figured it out.
Yep. So, yeah. And by the way, if you haven't yet, subscribe to IndieMediaToday.com. That is where I publish.
Whatever.
Right. So that is where I publish all of the clips from this show. I also share the weekly update to INN Stack here to my subscriber base, where we're now over 2,000 strong. Thank you so much for all who have subscribed. Also, occasionally write original articles like we saw about I skipped the damn TLAV article. Oh my God. I am so sorry. And we're going to have to, I'll have to record that during the week because we're getting past midnight already. But I did want to mention, that's another quick hit. What's happening to TLAV? Their website's being literally blocked worldwide. Okay? There are people all over the world who are messaging Ryan and saying, I can't get to your website at all. My ISP is blocking it at the server level. That's a level of censorship that we have no idea how to even combat or address or deal with. And like I said 6 weeks ago when I talked about what happened with Stripe, Ryan tends to be a canary in the coal mine. So if we are now starting to see content creators getting their website fucked with to the point that people can't get to their website even, that's really, really concerning. And there's no answer for how to fix it. Who do you talk to? Do you talk to your ISP? It's every ISP that seems to be blocking this, and it's happening at the client side. So you don't even know it's happening until somebody else tries to go to the website and can find that it was blocked. All the guest appearances on other shows, tech tips that I've done there, all that is here at, again, IndieMediaToday.com, INDIE MediaToday.com. Totally free for anyone who wants to sign up and subscribe, but $45 a year if you want to pay and support independent media, or $5 a month. I really appreciate you doing that. I put a ton of time into that publication there. And one more time before we go, I want to say thank you to everyone, reporters past, current. Sean, tonight, another 40. Thank you so much. Really, so good. Really appreciate everybody who's able to step up and hook us up. I know, people hooked us up Friday night for Jesse's show. That's such a fun show. If you haven't gone to a clip show on Friday nights for the Jesse Jett, I call it Dr. Nick called it like a concert, hanging out with all your friends on a Friday night. And I kind of feel the same way. I put these together.
American tradition.
I love doing it. And I love hanging out with everybody in chat on Friday night to do it. And it's like a chill, kind of relaxed stream. And I call it all cake and no icing because it's just music for the most part. Not even really Jesse talking all that much, unless it's maybe to set up a song here or there. But for the most part, it's just him doing pieces and songs. And it's a lot of fun.
It's a great American tradition.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Tib Dillon. So, yeah, that's 119 in the books, folks. And it may be that next week and coming in the very near future, coming to a Play the Sound.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
I have it on very good authority that they're going to be offering live streaming very, very soon, to the point where their CEO is doing a live stream directly from the platform tomorrow. And if that's coming, we will be there. The minute that offers live streaming directly to Substack, we will be there. And please join us there. I want to make a big splash there. I would really like to make, to be one of the early adopters would be really cool. Put a lot of time into that, into being there and into making that presence work, into having over 2,000 people that I'm connected with, and really appreciate everybody doing that. Can't be more excited about that. And not only that, but we've got the CEO actually listening to us about Stripe. I actually said, hey, on that live stream tomorrow, can you talk about Stripe and payment processors and what's going on with that? Maybe he will. All right, everyone. We're going to get the hell out of here. I need to take a drink. I need to take a bong hit, and we need to get back for boats. My guess is it's probably going to be closer to 12:30? 12:20-ish. We got 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. And,
yeah.
As I always say...
Or we'll be back soon.
Well, soon at some point. But yes, we are going to come back for boats.
Yep.
Yeah, I jam bass to Jesse Jett jam. Sounds great. Not bragging. Okay, I'm bragging. You can brag. I brag about it all day long to the point that Reef can't stand it. So, like I always say, support independent media because we need it more than ever. And we will see you next week. Good night, fams. Love y'all.
Keep listening to what boats have to tell you. Good night, fam. See you in a bit.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?
Who are these people?